Hello, crafty friends, and welcome to my channel. With less than 4 days left for Halloween, I realized I still needed to make a bunch of Halloween cards for friends and family. But honestly, I wasn't in the mood for anything spooky today, so I decided to go for some clean and simple designs instead. And to add a little twist, we are turning them into shaker cards. They are super easy to create and perfect if you're crafting for little ones who aren't big fans of scary Halloween vibes. So let's jump right in and I'll show you how I made these clean and simple and interactive Halloween cards. I'll be using some fun products from Cat Scrappiness today, including their amazing dies, stamp sets, and a gorgeous Halloween themed sequin mix. I'll be sticking to the traditional Halloween color palette of orange, purple, and black to keep that spooky vibe, but with a clean and simple twist. Now, before I show you the die set that I'll be working on for our cards today, I have to talk about one of my favorites. That is a simple sentiments stamp and coordinating die set from Cat Scrappiness. Now, this one is the Halloween edition and it's packed with fun and spooky sentiments that you can stamp all at once and cut out perfectly with the coordinating dies. It's a super handy set. Well, for our first card, I'll be using the Witch's Brew die set. Now, this is such a fun one. It comes with everything you need to build a cute little cauldron, witch's legs, and even some accessories for her shoes and her stockings. You will find two cauldron dies in the set, one for the outline and one for the shaker window. But for today's card, I'll be using just the outline die. All of the products that I'm using today are from previous Cat Scrappiness releases. Now, they've got such a great variety of goodies that you can use for your Halloween projects, ranging from stamps and dies to paper pads and sequin mixes. I'll be sure to link a few of my favorites down in the description box below. Now, to cut out my cauldron, I initially thought of going with plain black cardstock, but then I figured why not add a little sparkle and shine to this clean and simple card that I decided to create. So I grabbed my pouch from Simon's Stamp, which holds all of my glitter papers from Your Paper Insider. Now, from that collection, I picked this gorgeous black glitter cardstock. I absolutely love these glitter papers from Your Paper Insider because they are completely non shedding, mess free, and die cut beautifully. These are perfect for focal point elements or even tiny little sentiments. I went ahead and placed the die and the cardstock a sandwich and ran it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Now you'll see that this cauldron is actually large enough to cover almost half of an A2 size card panel. The Witch's Brew die set does come with some tiny dies to cut out bubbles that look like they're oozing out of the cauldron, but I thought it would be fun to create my own little bubbles brewing the perfect Halloween potion. Now for that, I'm using the basic shapes circle dies from Simon's Stamp. I picked three of the smaller circles and scattered them above the cauldron to mimic those bubbling effects. I ran this piece through my die cutting machine, and just like that, our little shaker windows are ready. Next, we need a little bit of color behind those shaker windows to really make them pop. For that, I grabbed a scrap piece of cardstock and added some ink blending to it. Now, you could totally skip this step and blend directly onto your card base, but I personally prefer working on a separate piece. Having that extra cardstock layered behind the shaker window gives me a lot more control when I'm assembling everything on my final card. For the shaker elements, I'm using a mix of the purple solid sequin mix and the ICU confetti mix, both so fun and perfectly Halloween. To make those sequences stand out, I decided to go with a bright, almost fluorescent green background. I used the Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated inks in the shades Limelicious and Perfection to create that vibrant base. I went ahead and ink blended both of these colors onto my scrap piece of cardstock. I wasn't going for a perfect blend here. I just wanted to make sure that the area behind the shaker windows are fully covered with color. Once I was happy with the blending, I decided to add a little sparkle. I bought my Frost Shimmer Mist spray and gave the panel a light misting. I placed it in my splatter box first and then added a few sprays of that gorgeous shimmer mist. It gives such a beautiful subtle shine when it catches the light. Now, while my panel was drying, I moved on to working on my shaker window. Well, it was not until I was almost ready to fill in my shaker window that I realized my phone memory was full and the video had stopped recording. So that's why you didn't see the part where my shaker window is already assembled and I had added foam tape around it to create space for the shaker bits to move freely inside. Don't worry though, I'll show you the full process in detail when we get to our second card. Now, for now, once my foam tape was in place, I'm going to pour the sequin mix to fill the window. Now, since I want the shaker elements to stay right inside the window area that's on the top of our card front, you'll notice that I have placed the foam tape pretty close around each of those window openings. That'll keep all the sequins contained perfectly. Now, before I peel off the backing from the foam tape and adhere my ink blended panel around, here's a little trick that I love to do. I take a thin paintbrush, dip it in some anti-static powder, and lightly brush along the inside edges of the foam tape. This helps prevent the sequins from sticking to the foam tape once the shaker is sealed. It makes such a difference. Next, all that's left to do is remove the backing from the foam tape and carefully place my ink blended panel over the shaker window. I press it down firmly, making sure all the edges are sealed so none of the sequins can escape. Before attaching it to the card base, I like to give it a little shake to make sure that all the sequins move freely inside the window. That's satisfying, and that movement is what makes the shaker cards so much fun. Finally, I used a little bit of liquid glue to adhere this card front onto a top folding card base, and then we can adhere our cauldron and the sentiment and all the other bits and bits, some sequin mixes to finish this card. I'll start by adhering the cauldron using some liquid glue. Now, if you want to add extra dimension, you could definitely use foam tape for the cauldron, but since there's already some dimension in this card, I'm sticking with liquid glue. It also makes mailing the card so much more easier. Of course, if I were to hand deliver it to someone, I wouldn't mind the extra pop. Now, with the cauldron in place, it's time for some finishing touches. I started by adding some fun little sequins to make it a bit spooky and festive. I chose the Simply Batty Confetti sequin mix. Now, the tiny bats look as if they're flying right out of the cauldron. Isn't it absolutely cute? Next, I wanted to add some splatters. Normally, I do this before attaching the acetate window, but since I forgot that step, I created four splatters instead. The easiest way is using a black gel pen to make tiny randomly placed dots, just like watercolor splatters. They're really absolutely easy to create. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The more random, the better. To finish it off, I added a little more sparkle with this pastel starlight sequence, and I just love how all that shine and glitter brings the card to life. Finally, all that's left to do is the sentiment, for which I used a cute little sentiment from the Halloween lantern add on stamp set, which comes with a coordinating die that cuts out both the stamped images and the sentiments perfectly. I stamped the sentiment using my VersaFine Onyx black ink onto a piece of white cardstock and then die cut it using the coordinating die. I adhered it right onto the cauldron using liquid glue. Now, since this is a glitter cardstock, it's not as smooth as your regular cardstock, so I recommend giving the glue a bit of an extra time to dry. I like to place a stamp block gently on top of the sentiment and leave it for a few minutes there. This helps ensure that the sentiment sticks perfectly and stays in place on all that textured glittery surface. And here's a look at the finished card. I absolutely love the beautiful texture and the stunning glitter and shimmer on our card front. And those little sequin mixes peeping through the shaker window. It's just so much fun and festive. If shaker cards aren't your thing, don't worry. I've also created a similar version of this card with the windows but without any shaker sequins. It's really a clean and simple take, perfect if you want the same Halloween vibe without the shaker elements. Moving on to our next card. This one's a little different and perfect for all you Disney lovers out there. It's another shaker style card, but this time I'm using this adorable little mouse ears from the Magical Memories die set, also by Cat Scrappiness. For the color scheme, I'm going with the classic Halloween black and orange. I started by creating my windows using those mouse ear dies to cut out the shapes on my card front. For the back of the windows, I ink blended a scrap piece of cardstock using sherbet and mandarin from the Simon Says Positively Saturated Ink collection. Such beautiful shades of oranges. I also added a touch of green that we used earlier just to create a little bit of contrast. To add some sparkle and shine to the background, I spritz it with the Spice Marmalade Distress Spritz Spray, giving it a perfect Halloween shimmer. I let the shimmer spray dry and now I'll show you how I created the shaker window for this card. I started by placing double-sided tape along the four corners on the back of the panel. I also cut a piece of acetate slightly smaller than 4 by 5 and quarter inches and adhered it over the taped area to create my shaker window. Next, to make sure that the sequences have enough room to freely move around, I added foam tape around the edges of the opening. I placed the foam tape close together, leaving no gaps. This ensures that none of the sequences fall out once the shaker is assembled. You could also double up on your foam tape, adding two layers of tape, giving it extra room for your shaker elements to move around. But for this card, I decided not to add too much bulk since I plan on mailing it out rather than hand delivering it. For the sequins, I'm using those gorgeous Tangerine Dream solid sequin mix along with the Halloween mouse sprinkles, which include the cutest little candy corns and tiny orange, black, and white mouse faces. Before peeling off the backing from the foam tape, I went ahead and used my paintbrush dipped in the anti-static powder to brush along the edges of the tape. This will help make sure that the sequins don't stick to the edges once the shaker is assembled. Next, I peeled off the backing from the foam tape and adhered my ink blended panel, closing the shaker window. I absolutely love how gorgeous it's already looking. Now, for this card, instead of using a die cut sentiment, I decided to stamp the sentiment directly on my card front. Now, ideally, I should have done this before creating the shaker window because stamping on a bulky card can be tricky. But I have a solution for that. I brought the panel over to my stamp wheel. Now, normally I use the ultra sticky mat inside the stamp wheel, but it is a bit too thick for this bulky card. So instead of that, I removed this ultra sticky mat, the bulky ultra sticky mat, and swapped it out for the slim grip sticky mat, which is compatible with the stamp wheel. It's very easy to remove the mats from the stamp wheel. All you have to do is just peel one side and just gently pull it out. Now, the slim grip sticky mat is very similar to the ultra sticky mat. It has a tacky surface that will hold your card in place without any of that extra bulk. Now, when you open it out of the packaging, you'll see there is a little acetate sheet that's like a protective covering for this stamp uh, grip mat. And I would recommend you that once you're done using this grip mat, I would recommend placing that acetate sheet back so that it retains that tacky surface. Now, once I have placed my panel on this, I will bring my grid transparency sheet and align my sentiment. Now, for this card, I'm using the Happy Halloween sentiment and I stamped it using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And just like I would do a normal stamping, that's exactly what I did here, minus all that bulk from the Ultra Sticky Mat. Now that our card front is almost complete, I'm going to adhere it onto the card base before adding all those beautiful sequin mixes. I'm using a top folding white note card and attaching the panel using liquid glue. Now that our card front is in place, we can add all our beautiful sequin mixes. Now, just like we did with the quadrant card, I'm going to add those beautiful sequins around the shaker windows. This time, instead of the little bats, I'm using the black mouse faces and scattering them randomly across the window. Once the mouse faces are in place, I added this pastel starlight sequin mix around the windows for that extra shine, and finally added a few faux splatters using black gel pen to mimic watercolor splatters, giving this beautiful extra little touch to our fun Halloween card. While I was creating the shaker window, I did remember to add the watercolor splatters this time, but I chose to stick with the faux splatters. I felt that this card deserved a more controlled, limited look, which is actually a little tricky for me when working with real watercolors because I do tend to get a bit carried away. Well, here's a look at the finished card. I absolutely loved how it turned out and how easy it was to create. With minimal stamping and die cutting, some fun ink blending, and super sparkly sequin mixes, we managed to make three Halloween cards in no time. From a cute yet spooky cauldron card to the adorable Mickey Mouse inspired shaker card, I just love how these designs came together. And don't forget the window, but not shaker card. Isn't this too absolutely stunning? And that's a wrap on today's video. I hope this inspires you to create your own clean and simple Halloween designs, also designs that are perfect to create for your last minute Halloween cards with just 4 days left for Halloween. Now, all the supplies that I use to create these cards will be listed down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe and wishing you all a very happy Halloween.